Hey, what's up? Hopefully everyone's doing all right. So we are on um, 30, week 30 out of 50. So if we go through the Bible and we read about 14 pages, and the King James Version is 14 pages, we get through the Bible in 1 year, and if we do 50 weeks, and we are on week 30. And today's reading is Isaiah 41 through Isaiah 66. So we are just finishing up Isaiah. And so when I read Isaiah, Isaiah is just a lot of kind of prophecy. Um, I don't even really know, to be honest, like when Isaiah takes place. But yeah, it's a lot of prophecy. Isaiah is just like all prophecy. The word Isaiah son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days, the mountain of the Lord shall be established, and the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow unto it. So it's a lot of prophecy, and it's not really like a lot of events happening. It's just a lot of prophecy, and Isaiah is a lot of God saying how He's going to punish the people, and God saying how He's going to punish those that are against Jerusalem, against Israel, and a lot of it is God saying how He's going to reward Israel and Jerusalem, and it's hard for me to understand Isaiah. I think Isaiah is probably one of the hardest books to understand. The whole book of Isaiah. I guess the only other book that's harder to understand than Isaiah is Revelation. And so Isaiah would kind of be the Old Testament version of Revelation. Now you have all the prophets after Isaiah, and you have Jeremiah, and after Jeremiah you have Ezekiel, and after Ezekiel you have some of the smaller books, and but I do think Isaiah is probably the hardest to understand, and this is a difficult reading. I do like the reading, I like the words that flow, and the information is good, but it is a difficult reading. Okay, so for each of the weeks, or each day we have like a main theme that I went over. And so Monday I have, they shall be greatly ashamed that trust in graven images. And so I think that, why would you trust in a graven image? I think they will be greatly ashamed, those that like have other gods besides God. And I think for me, it's like, why would you have, like, how can anybody get to the point where they believe that there's a different God, or they can have graven images? And I think that it's a path that people take, like, you don't get there in one day. It's not something that you just arrived at, but like because of the choice that you make in your life, eventually you get to a place where you trust in graven images. And I think that if you trust in graven images, then you can look at your life and reflect and be okay, like, wow, how did I get to this spot? Like, how did I get here? I just didn't get here overnight. And so what was the path that led me here? And so the path that led me to this place of that trust in graven images, I can look back and say, hey, the path I took was wrong, and I can see the choices that I made that are wrong, and like try to adjust accordingly. So Tuesday I have, Saith the Lord, I am God, and there is none that can deliver out of my hand. And so I think it's the same thing. Like, if you get to a point in your life where you are doing something that's like obviously wrong, right? And you're like, okay, well, this is obviously wrong. It's okay, well, how did I get to this point in my life? Like, where did I get to in order to get here? And I think for me in my life, because I mess up a lot, and there's things that I struggle with, and I think for me the things that I struggle with, the how I got there was listening to or like watching movies, being really greatly affected by pop culture. And so the life that I live and the things that I think that are okay and the choices that I make, I think I got there because of maybe listening to music and listening to pop culture. And so those are the mistakes that I've made in order to get where I'm at. And I don't know if music is, and maybe it's just certain music, and maybe certain movies and like certain stuff that I've intaked, and so maybe that's just a justification because I still want to engage in those things. But it's at least like I'm trying to like change the movies that I watch. I don't watch any movies anymore. Um, I still do listen to music, and so but I listen to different music than I used to listen to, and so I think that seeing what I am in my life and like, okay, well, I don't want to be here. These are mistakes that I'm making. These are obviously bad choices. And so, like, looking at the path in my life and that I got there, how did I get here? How did I get to this part? And then, like, changing the things in my life that got me to the spot that is obviously the wrong thing to do, and I don't want to do it. And I think the same thing for like trusting in graven images, or just thinking that somebody can deliver, you out of God's hands. So like, you just don't get there overnight thinking that someone can deliver you out of God's hands overnight, but you get there by the choices that you made and the path that you've taken in your life. And so you can look at the path that you've taken and take out the stuff in your life that has allowed you to get to that path, so that when you get to a point where obviously you're doing things that are just not okay, having the thought that someone can deliver you out of God's hands, like, that's obviously wrong. So you're there, you've arrived there, and so how did you get there? And so you look at the path and try to change the path and take other things in your life that make it so you get there and try to choose a different path. And so for Wednesday, I have woe unto him that striveth with his maker. And I think that there's times in our life where we all strive with our maker, right? We don't understand, or we just don't like the plan that he has in front of us. And so when we don't like the plan that he has in front of us, it's like woe to us, because now we're in a spot that we shouldn't be in, and we don't want to be in. And that sucks to be in that spot. And so for Thursday, I have, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. And so for this verse, I was wondering about this verse when I got there, like, what exactly does it mean? And in the context of it was different than like the context that what I thought it meant. But then if I read the context of it, I don't think that that's necessarily what it means. I do wonder though, if you can, like, you get to a spot in your life, this is kind of what my thought was, is like, I think that some people don't think God knows their heart and doesn't really know why they're doing what they're doing. And so so they trust in the idea that the reason why they're doing what they're doing is good in their heart, but God really knows why they're doing what they're doing. And so they trust in the illusion of their heart, or the illusion of why they think that what they're doing. They trust in they trust in what they have convinced themselves of why they do what they're doing. And so they just trust, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, but they've convinced themselves that's why they're doing what they're doing, but that's not the real reason why they're doing what they're doing. And so they trust in that deception, they deceive themselves. And I really think that the deceiver is himself deceived. And so I think a lot of people, they trust in the deception that they place over their life of why they're doing what they're doing and how they're feeling what they're doing. And so they trust in themselves, but it's just a deception that they fed themselves in order to create a reality that best suits their needs, and they can continue to live in sin. I think that we all kind of tend to do that at times. What is reality? And I think morality is reality, but I think a lot of times we convince ourselves what the truth is, and the truth is what best suits our needs at a given time. And it's really difficult to not do that, if not impossible. And so the only thing you can really do is be aware of what you're doing. You just have to acknowledge it, because you can't limit it. You can limit it, you can't eliminate it, but you can acknowledge it. And if you acknowledge it, then you can limit it, but you can't eliminate it. So you can acknowledge the fact that you perceive reality in order to best suit your needs at a given time. You can accept that as a fact, and so therefore you can limit it. You can't eliminate it, because that's what you're always going to do, but all you can do is accept that. And so Friday, I have, men have not seen, heard, or received what awaits those who wait for the Lord. And so it's kind of the same thing as the New Testament, where it talks about no eye has seen, nor ear heard, or enter into the heart of man what God has prepared for those that love him. And this is the same idea, but it's for those who wait for the Lord. And so waiting for the Lord and loving the Lord, I mean, they're still like in the same category. Like they're similar, but they're a little bit different. I think loving the Lord is, having that personal relationship with him, and waiting for the Lord is seeking that relationship with him. And so seeking and having, like if you're seeking, eventually you'll have, and having that relationship, God will reward you, but also seeking it, he'll reward you too, because it's just a precursor to having. So it's the same thing. It's just inevitable. If you seek, that you will find. And so there's just a difference between seeking and finding the Lord, waiting for the Lord, seeking him, and then finding the Lord. But you still get the reward for seeking, because if you seek, you shall find. So that's pretty much all I have. This is Isaiah 41 through Isaiah 66. And like I said, it is week 30. And so, hope everyone's doing okay. God bless, and happy truth seeking.